But first, drive by the corner of North and California Avenues in Chicago and you will see dozens of tents set up in Humboldt Park amongst the trees. Green two-person tents for backpacking, large orange ice fishing tents, family camping tents with blue tarps strung over the top to stop the rain. Unhoused people, some of them migrants, have been living in this corner of the park for months. And now there's a plan to move them into permanent housing by December, a plan that some living there say is necessary.
It'll be good because the cold is coming in and it's getting worse out here. A lot of rats and all that stuff. We don't need to get caught in no crossfire or anything like that. Especially we got kids.
Here to discuss is Carolyn Ross, president and CEO of All Chicago. Its Chicago Rents program is working with private property owners to secure housing for people living at the encampment. Welcome to Reset, Carolyn.
Thank you, Sasha.
Also joining us is Carol Sharp, who's president and CEO of the Night Ministry. Her organization has long done homeless outreach here in Humboldt Park. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Sasha.
So, Carolyn, I'll start with you. I want to know what goes through your mind when you hear from people like Lily, who we just played at the top of the show.
Well, it's something, thank you, Sasha, and thanks for having us. It's something that we see often. I'm glad that it's visible because that means now it's an area we've identified that needs some addressing. And so what we do at All Chicago is lead the system level coordination to make sure that we get people housed. No one chooses to be out in the cold. We are quite aware of that. But we're just a partner in this in regards to working with our city and state and federal officials to oversee a continuum of care, of which we have 103 partner agencies, and Carol and the Night Ministry is one of our valued partners. So we can do so much, but we have to work in collaboration to get this done. And so we're excited to be a part of this event to make sure that we get additional people housed. This is something that we do all the time.
Carol, your thoughts as, Lily says it's getting worse out here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And so, echoing Carolyn's sentiments, we are truly grateful to be part of a partnership with organizations like All Chicago, and giving the platform to be able to have these conversations is as important as well. I mean, last year, I think about the ways in which our team members had to go out into various encampments and provide those additional resources when the temperatures were frigid. We know that Chicago is a space where we can anticipate there being some really severe weather. And so to know that this initiative exists creates the opportunity for us to bring housing to those who need it the most.
So, Carolyn, tell us more about All Chicago and this Chicago Rents program.
Sure. So Chicago Rents is just one initiative that we do. We serve as the lead for a system that receives federal funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We partner with the City of Chicago, with Family and Support Services, Department of Public Health, and the Department of Housing, and as well as the state. And for people who don't know, the state and the city of Chicago both now have homelessness chief homelessness officers who are helping to put their hands in this work as well. All Chicago basically works to support and to do system level coordination for all of these agencies to help them do this work. So we go out and we find new funding. We make sure that people receive the training that they need to do best practices to serve this population, because we need people to understand homelessness is not, it is an outcome of many other social determinants, other issues that people have that lead them to homelessness. So we want to take the approach of being non-judgmental. Chicago Rents is one of those issues that we just realized needed to be addressed because we don't have enough affordable housing in Chicago.
Yeah, that is a fact. Carol, why don't we hear more about the Night Ministry and the work that you're doing in Humboldt Park?
Yeah, absolutely. The Night Ministry, we're coming up on our 50th year anniversary in 2026, actually. And our mission is to provide human connection, housing, and healthcare to those who are living unsheltered or in precariously housing situations. And our outreach health team is out at various encampments and neighborhoods across the city every night. And so our teams are in the Humboldt Park neighborhood on Saturdays and Thursdays, led by our volunteer physicians, our nurse practitioners, case managers. And so we are bringing those essential resources to the encampments and making the connections to ensure that they are moving closer toward a more stable living environment.
So I understand the upcoming move of people from tents to apartments. It's known as an accelerated moving event,
Yes.
Carolyn.
Yes.
What is that exactly? And what does a successful accelerated moving event look like?
Absolutely. So, accelerated moving event is something that we put together. It basically brings the services to individuals so that they don't have to knock on multiple doors to get help. So, we select a day or two, and we invite through our coordination with our partners like Night Ministry in the city to make sure that we identify people who need this outreach, who are in encampments or unhoused. We invite them to come, and then we bring the providers to them. And so what success looks like is we are able to talk with them, identify what their needs are, simple things sometimes like just identification, help them work through the system to fill out an application to seek out assistance. And the success would be at the end of the day that we have identified a housing unit for them as an individual or as a family. So for this event coming up in Humboldt Park, we're actually bringing 60 housing resources that will be available for folks to get placed that day if they should, work with us and qualify for the services.
What are the biggest challenges when it comes to doing that, to moving people from this tent encampment to that permanent housing that you're talking about? I mean, is it finding the landlords to participate, the funding and logistics, or something else?
We try to organize all of that before we get there. So that's what Chicago Rents is. We went out and identified, work with landlords to help support them, help them learn how to work with a population of people that they really are already working with, who want to be able to be helpful. And so we've got the funding already lined up. We've got the partners there. And so we don't want them to have that worry. And what it looks like is that at the end of the day, we're hoping that they are connected to a residence where they'll be able to go in short order. And in the meantime, while they're waiting to get their keys, they have case management services and other things that are available to them to help them stay connected with us until that door is ready for them.
So is there a typical landlord that you're working with? Like, people with 2 or 3 flats, or people who own large buildings?
All of that.
All of the above.
All of that. It's very important.
And how do you make sure then that everyone in the encampment is accounted for? Like, is there a master list of names?
Yes, so this is where we work with the Department of Family and Support Services, working with Night Ministry and other outreach partners.
To find out who's who.
Yeah, they go out and they identify what encampments we're going to go to next.
We're speaking with Carolyn Ross, who's president and CEO of the nonprofit All Chicago. Now, through its Chicago Rents program, the organization's working to resettle people from Humboldt Park's tent encampment into permanent housing. Also with us is Carol Sharp, president and CEO of the Night Ministry, which provides services to unhoused people in the park. I want to play a few voices of other people living in tents in the park right now.
So when I came out of jail, I had nowhere to go. So I came here because this is where I grew up, and I know a lot of people out here.
We don't have work. We are refugeed here. We have nowhere to live. We've had some help. They come and make promises to us. They make you fill out papers. We sign, and nothing.
I've been in Humboldt Park my whole life. And to the tents, it's been, 4 or 5 months, which I'm trying to get out because I'm pregnant.
So it was Angel, Omar, and Lily once again. Now, later this week, the city's set to announce plans to merge the shelter systems for migrants as well as the unhoused. Carol, what role do you think that shelters play or should play in the way that Chicago or the city handles the needs of these unhoused people and new arrivals? Like, is something like this the right move, merging them?
Well, organizations like the Night Ministry, what we do is we are able to support by providing case management services. And so we are understanding what the journey has been for that person, getting them connected to the right resources so that they can obtain IDs and birth certificates. And particularly in this community, we know that there are a number of individuals who are from Puerto Rico. And so for them, geography plays a huge role in the ability to be able to get access to their information. And so, I think any opportunities for us to partner and for us to be collaborative in our efforts is a good decision, because we are at our best when we're able to work with each other. We have the same and similar missions, and certainly there's a variety of expertise that exists across our network.
We know that a shortage of affordable housing is a national problem, Carolyn. I mean, how do you see that playing out locally?
It also applies here to the city of Chicago. Again, the value of the Chicago rents and our outreach teams. So that the biggest part is just once we are able to build that trust and connect with people, we want to stay in touch with them. And when you mentioned the piece about the announcement coming up later this week, the resources are limited, but we want people to know there are folks out here every day doing this work, connecting with folks. We don't like to see people who are unsheltered. And so something like this helps us to be able to be more collaborative, even more, and to identify those resources to maximize them. And so this is a big role that we play in leading the system, and we're really looking forward to having a good event in Humboldt Park.
Yeah. Carol, what comes to mind when you think of just, that national problem and what it looks like here in Chicago? Is it pretty much a mirror?
Well, I mean, yes, we need more housing. I mean, that's really the solution. Housing first. So we need more units for individuals to be able to gain access to. I mean, even our organization, just this past weekend, literally less than 24 hours ago, we were moving our young people from a congregate model to their own apartment. We handed them the keys, and to see the joy in the young person's face that they have that level of stability, that they don't have to worry about where they're going to be living. That's what we're looking for. We know that by just eliminating that factor, we're putting them in a position to be able to get employment and keep employment, to grow their families, and so we need more housing.
Now, we should note that we reached out for an interview with the city's chief homelessness officer, Sandy Soto, as well as the 26th Ward Alder, Jesse Fuentes. Unfortunately, they were not able to join us today. Both they and the city's Department of Family and Support Services have been working, as we've discussed, to help unhoused people who are living in Humboldt Park. Quickly, from both of your perspectives, I want to know what you make of the city's approach overall to getting unhoused people into permanent housing. What are they doing right? And is there anything you think that they could be doing better? You first, Carolyn.
Well, it's been pivotal. We went through a period of having to be quarantined in a sense, but it allowed us to learn how to be more innovative and to better use our resources. I think the city has done a tremendous job of figuring out how to disperse those services. They use organizations such as ours, All Chicago, to help disperse funding out for rental assistance and things of that nature, just because we move faster than government does. And so I have no criticisms in the regard that this is tough work to do, but it's really important that we all stay connected so that we can continue to do so.
Carol, what's the city doing right? And is there anything that they should be doing better?
Well, I think that ensuring that the organizations who are doing the work every day have access to the resources to do our jobs well is something that the city is doing well. I mean, and the more that we can continue to do that, the better off we'll be in the next few years.
Yeah. So we know the so-called accelerated moving event, it's scheduled for later this month. And city leaders have said everyone in tents should be in permanent housing by December. That's our timeline?
That is the goal.
So in recent months, we know that the number of new arrivals from the southern border, that's slowed down, and that's released a little bit of pressure on the system. I'm wondering, let's say everyone who's currently living in the tents does get into permanent apartments this fall. Would you expect more tents to go up in the future? Like from other people who find themselves without a place to live?
I would hope not, but the reality is that once an encampment is emptied, for example, and we are able to get people housed, I think DFSS, the Department of Family and Support Services, does a good job in the outreach teams of continuing to revisit those sites to ensure that they stay empty. There are clearly other encampments that we might want to address, but I will tell you, just over the last 2 years, we have secured through Chicago Rents over 500 landlords, and we've been able to place or secure 2,000 households. So it does work, and it works because we're giving them our undivided attention on one day, and then we stick with them.
Mm-hmm. Carol, last word to you.
Yeah, I don't know that we can have a definite answer on whether or not we can expect to see more tents up, but I will say that our organizations will continue to be steadfast in our mission.
Yeah.
And if that means that we need to ensure that people have some temporary shelter, then we will be doing that.
That is Carolyn Ross of All Chicago. The organization is working to end homelessness. Its Chicago Rents program has helped thousands of people transition from homelessness to permanent housing. And Carol Sharp of the Night Ministry, her organization, does homeless outreach in Humboldt Park and elsewhere in the city. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.